tonight.
I was hoping to continue what Roseanne Barr had set out to do, which I really liked. And my agent called me and said, well, the network has a problem with you. And he's talking about what a dangerous person I am because I'm a bigot and I'm homophobic and I'm a racist and, you know, all these terrible things because I support Trump. No, we cannot have her in a show. If we go forward with this project, it will not be with her. Yeah, they came back and said, would you be willing to take a course? I guess political correctness. We need to do a web search on Susan. Like, you can say any horrible, hateful, awful thing you want as long as you're on the left. They won't budge. They just will not have you in this. And I'm like, wow, I've been canceled. You know, a role that I've played for over 50 years, I can't play it now because I'm too dangerous.
But they're not mad at you.
I don't. One of them might be.
Okay. Spill the tea. Spill the tea. Spill the tea. What is your message to anybody in this country right now who sees things the way that you and I see things? When you think about the all-time most iconic TV shows in American history, I think probably most people at the top of their list would think about the Brady Bunch. It's a show that I know I grew up watching and loving. So many people grew up watching and loving the Brady Bunch. And there's been so many reboots and sequels and spinoffs and things throughout the years that the Bradys have done. So I was very pleasantly surprised when I got a phone call very recently, about a week ago, and had a chat with one of America's most beloved child actors, a character from the Brady Bunch, who told me that she wanted to talk about the fact that she wants to be outspoken now about the fact that she is walking away from woke Hollywood and has quite a story to tell. So I'm very excited today to have as my guest with me, Susan Olsen, America's favorite Cindy Brady from the Brady Bunch.
Yeah.
Thanks for being here.
Hey, thank you.
And thanks for calling me.
It's a pleasure to meet you. And
vice versa.
Yeah, well, we can both thank Cherie Curry.
We can.
She's our mutual friend.
Another American icon.
Yes.
Yeah,
yes.
Cherie Curry from the 70s all-girl rock band The Runaways. Yeah. Cherie Curry recently also made a WalkAway video talking about how she's walking away from the political left. She put us in touch. But we had a great conversation on the phone, and I almost wanted to just be like, let's stop talking because I want to do all this on camera. Yeah. So some of the things we've already gotten into, some we'll get into today. But what made you want to reach out to me, and what do you want to talk about today?
Well, basically, I have a story, which you already know. I have a story to tell.
Yes. Here's the story.
Oh, gosh. I walked right into that.
Yeah, you did.
It's something that I want known because it's just another example of cancel culture and woke Hollywood and woke media. And I think basically a certain amount of injustice. And but I didn't know how to say it. I figured, well, one day I'll write a book and I'll talk about this. And of course, I'm pretty lazy. And I've been writing this book for probably 20 years. Never got serious. And I've thought about talking on. In fact, I had an offer to speak on a television show about this incident, and I didn't want to be like a tattletale. That episode,
another iconic episode,
effed me up. It did, because the kids at school thought that I was really going to tattle, and that's like the last thing that I would do. Yeah. It was one of the most uncool things that Cindy did, and she did it while she was in my body on TV.
Right.
So, I just, I don't know. I'm worried about tooting my own horn. I have been very politically outspoken, though, and I don't mind I don't mind speaking my mind
Sure.
about things, but this particular incident, I didn't want to hurt anybody else. And
Well, and to me, it's more than an incident. It's kind of a series of incidents that led to, I think, you doing something incredibly brave. And of course, we're going to get into all of it today. But really, truly, because I mean, when you think about in the end, it's really you that walked away from what could have been a really big opportunity. But you wanted to be true to yourself, and you wanted to be true to something that so many people love and care about, and that really represents. There's something bigger here, I think, that what the Brady Bunch represents to so many people. So let's start at the beginning and not keep everybody in suspense. The story really starts, we'll start at the point, I think, where you were approached because they were going to do a Brady Bunch reboot.
yes.
Is that correct?
Yes. Then this was after we did the HGTV show.
Yes.
Where we rebuilt the house. And that was like the most highly rated show on HGTV. It was really successful. Thank you, people, for tuning in. And we actually like each other. In fact, we love each other.
Your
Yes,
yeah.
my Brady brethren.
The Brady brethren.
And we had a great time, and I think we just wanted more. And so there was the idea to do a reboot. And
A sitcom?
Yes, it would be, yeah.
Because
And-
there was the drama in the 80s where the Bradys kind of became a primetime soap for, I think, one season.
Yeah.
I remember this.
Yeah, they were calling it Brady something. Well, not.
I think it was
not,
called The
not
Bradys.
for real. It was just called The Bradys.
Yeah.
But the producers called it Brady something. I remember one review said, "Yeah, the producers call it Brady something. We call it Brady nothing." Yeah, it wasn't great. And that was another reason for having a lot of hesitation, because while reunion shows often get big ratings, I think that's for the same reason that a lot of people look at car accidents. It's just to see how bad it is.
Mm-hmm.
And we have had some that I think are not the best. I mean, the Brady Bunch Variety Hour, that was 9 episodes.
Right.
And it was voted the 4th worst television show in TV history. And that made me proud.
I can't even imagine how much work that show was to do, by the way. I've seen episodes of the Variety Hour, and I mean, I'm just like, how on earth did they even do this on a weekly basis? Like,
It really
looks
really
brutal.
was a big deal, and especially our dancers, because they were swimmers as well.
Right.
And I have a friend who wanted to write a book about the Variety Hour, and he asked me if I would do a foreword, and then we got to talking, and he said, "Gee, I'd like you to do more than just a foreword, kind of do the side notes." And I said, "Well, the whole thing was so garish. It really should be a coffee table book, and I know the perfect art director for it." The art director was my friend Lisa Sutton, and the author was Ted Nicholson, and me doing the kind of sidebars.
Okay.
And I did a little bit of the graphic art because when I left acting, that's what I did. I was a graphic artist. So, and it's actually a very good book because there's so much that went into that. And this was back when editing was analog. And I mean, our first episode was Thanksgiving. And NBC thought they might go to dead air because they didn't have the finished show until like minutes before it aired.
Wow.
So if you want to know how television was made back in the day, it's really a good read.
Well, and people will have to. I'm sure we'll never get the rights to show any clips, so people will have to go on YouTube, I think, to see
Yes.
episodes of the Brady Variety Hour. But so there have been multiple like kind of reboot spinoffs and specials and things like that. But this sounds good because it sounds like they were looking to do a modern sitcom reboot. Now, of course, the Brady parents are gone at this point, which is very sad because, I mean, America loves Florence Henderson and Robert Reed. And I mean, and you
Davis.
genuinely loved, they were good people.
Absolutely. You know, when we were doing that horrible, the Bradys, and I sort of went into it kicking and screaming, but the money's good.
Yeah, right.
And I was on the set my first day and just going, oh, gosh, what am I doing? I thought I gave up acting. What am I doing? What am I doing? And Florence and Bob, of course, together, because they were great friends. They walked into the studio, and I just instantly, I'm okay. Everything's fine. Mom and Dad are here.
That's
Everything's
so
cool.
cool.
Yeah.
I
yeah.
love that. So I mean, obviously you were a little girl when you worked with them, when you met them. So they do have that special place in your heart.
Definitely.
And always will. But so now we have the new reboot is being pitched to you, essentially. It's a sitcom. And what are your initial thoughts about why this might be a good idea?
Well, I mean, we actually worked on it for about a year. We had a showrunner and a producer, and we all had a hand in our characters. And that really interested me because, if I had my choice, I would be a writer over being an actor any
Okay.
day, or I'd be in the dark edit bay doing my thing.
We've talked about our love of editing,
Oh yeah,
which is like
you're
a
the
sickness.
only other person I've met
I
that
love
loves
it.
the tedium of it.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and that you can get lost in editing a microsecond, but you can spend an hour.
Yes,
Just
this is where the music comes in. Not there, right
And by
here.
the way, no one cares. By the time you
Yeah,
put it out,
right.
no one even notices something
Yeah.
that you've labored over for 2 hours. They don't notice the change or the transition, but when you see it, your stamp is on it.
But anyway, I enjoy it. I enjoy
Sure.
it a lot. So I was hoping to get a little bit involved in some of the writing, and we all had a hand in our characters, and our characters we did define our political ideologies, and my character.
This was discussed.
Yes, yes, and our showrunner, he came up with the treatment, and I was really really pleased with it. And my character Cindy, because she did do radio, and then I ended up doing radio.
And you had done radio,
yes.
yeah.
And so she was a podcaster, and not quite as successful as Joe Rogan, but doing well.
Sure.
And a libertarian.
Okay.
And into animal rescue. A lot of stuff that is me, but just a little bit more so. So she'd be a little more eccentric.
Let me ask you a question. Cindy is a libertarian. What is Susan?
Susan technically is a libertarian, but I am going to get out of that party and go back to being a party pooper.
Okay.
Because I'm not real crazy about a lot of the choices the libertarians have made. And I just, sometimes I'll even join the Republican Party just so I can vote in the primaries.
Sure.
But I am, in my heart, a party pooper.
So, but you don't identify as a staunch Republican.
No, I don't.
Okay.
I don't.
All right. Because I was curious if maybe you were a Republican, went to the show with your own kind of like political ideals, and they said, well, we'll compromise on libertarian, but that's not what happened.
No, not a bit. No.
Okay.
In fact, I thought that was very important that Cindy is a libertarian, and also that she's a little crazy, that she does the animal rescue, which is, like me. I was so hoping to be the first woman on television since my first female hero, Donna Douglas, from the Beverly Hillbillies, to wear an opossum on my shoulder. That was like the biggest deal to me. And I was going to train one, get it all ready, because I love opossums.
Okay.
But so anyway, Greg's character is Reagan Republican, Jan fairly liberal. To me, what was great about it is I was hoping to continue what Roseanne Barr had set out to do, which I really liked.
With her reboot.
Yes, her reboot had a family with completely different political opinions, and in the end, they all love and respect each other.
And can talk.
Yes,
Yes.
and talk freely
Yes.
about the issues. And so I really like that, mostly because there's that solidarity at the end of, I'm not going to write you off because you think differently than me.
Right.
Yeah. But we know what happened to Roseanne.
We do, and we're about to learn what happened to you.
Yes.
So, and we can go backward in a moment to kind of explain what precipitated some of the trouble. Mm-hmm. But let's start first with where the trouble began with the reboot.
Within the reboot?
Within the reboot.
Okay.
And then we'll go back and talk about what led to it.
So, we were doing our pitches, and then things were looking good. And my agent called me and said, well, the network has a problem with you. I'm like, oh,
This is
okay.
CBS.
Yes, it is.
Okay.
You mentioned them. I didn't.
It's out there.
It's out there. And I said, oh, okay, whatever could the problem be? And he said, well, there was some incident where you had a homophobic rant on the air and you were fired. I'm like, oh, gosh. Okay, that old thing. And that had been 6 years prior. And this was like at least 2 years ago, 3 years maybe. And I said, well, that was something that, that was a news story. That was fake news. That was a thing that happened, but it didn't really happen. It didn't happen in the context of what people think happened.
What did happen?
Okay, what did happen is that I had a political show on LA Talk Radio, and Trump had won, and I had been outspoken in supporting Trump, which is not a popular thing to do in Los Angeles.
Yeah.
And so we had basically a debate. My on-air partner, Sheena Metal, who I dearly love, she invited a very left-wing person, and she says, if you want to bring somebody from your side. I had just met this guy, and I thought he was really well-spoken, so I had him on. So, I mean, we had this heated debate.
And he was gay.
Yes, her friend was gay, and he was saying that Donald Trump was going to round up all gay people and put them in concentration camps. And I'm like, what are you talking about? And
I think that was technically Mike Pence who was going to do that. But I believed those stories too. Shortly after. Oh yeah.
Oh gosh.
Yeah. I voted for Hillary in 2016. So yeah, I was definitely one. I remember the rumors circulating and what he was going to do to minorities, and they were talking about Mike Pence wanted to electric shock everybody straight. And anyway, please continue.
Well, I'd have to say I don't know that I trust Mike Pence, and I will say that Donald Trump does himself no favors because he says a lot of stupid shit.
Yeah. Well, it doesn't correct the record too. It's like he'll just allow sort of these false perceptions to linger and never comes back and be like, look, that's not what I said or that's not what I meant. I get frustrated with that too.
Okay. Yeah.
Very much.
If I had a nickel for every time I've gone, oh God, did he really say that? It would be like making residuals.
Yeah.
I'd be wealthy. So anyway, so there was all this stuff about Trump, and I'm trying to explain that Trump single-handedly made the Republican Party gay friendly after the Orlando shooting, and he said, "I am on your side." I'm like, okay, now we have it. It's official. The GOP supports gay people whether they like it or not.
And he held the flag after the Pulse nightclub shooting, and
did.
yes, okay.
Yes, and by contrast, Hillary was very clear that she wanted to bring in thousands of Islamic migrants who believed that gay people should be thrown off buildings.
Right.
And it's like, how do you think that she's the one who's gay friendly? Anyway, I knew he wasn't racist either, and so much of this was the fault of the media. But I mean, look at. Well, it was into his presidency, but we're still dealing with fine people on both sides.
Yep.
So anyway, so this guy's on the show, and he's talking about all the horrible things that Trump is going to do, and that anybody that voted for him is against gays, and they're racist. And at the time, my radio partner and I were doing a gay web series called Child of the 70s.
And she was gay?
Yes.
Your partner?
She's bi.
Oh, okay.
And but she was playing a lesbian, and so was I. And, we were married on the show. And anyway, so he's saying all this stuff. And a lot of just really over-the-top, stupid things. It was a great debate, and in during the commercials, he's fist bumping me and going, "I can't believe I'm arguing with Cindy Brady."
Right.
We tell my mom.
So you're having fun. You
yes,
think?
We're having fun. And I could feel that I had a migraine coming on the back of my head. And I've suffered with these since I was 11. I was a migraine spokesperson for Glaxo Wellcome for 3 years. So, I mean, this is like, it's almost been a career of mine. And I knew that this was coming on, but we had a great show. And at the end, we're all hugging and we're taking pictures and everything's fine. And I come home and my son said, "How did it go?" And I said, "I think it's the best show we've ever had. And I'm sick." And so, I went to bed. And the next morning, my other co-host from another show I was doing on LA Talk Radio called me and he said, "Have you seen social media? Have you seen what's going on?" I'm like, "No, I'm not even going to turn on my computer. I've got a migraine. My head's pounding." And he's like, "Well, you better look at what this guy, the guy that you had on your show last night, what he's saying." So I did. And he's talking about what a dangerous person I am because I'm a bigot and I'm homophobic and I'm a racist and all these terrible things because I support Trump. And that I need to be fired from LA Talk Radio because I am a danger to the public. And I'm like, what the F? Yeah, Whiskey Tango Foxtrot. We just had a great show.
Yeah.
He's fist bumping me. I called my partner because she knew him. She's like, "Well, that's kind of the way he is." And I must go on the record as saying Sheena and I patched things up. Like totally, and I adore her.
She was your radio partner.
Yes,
Okay.
yes. And she was also my wife on TV.
Right.
Yeah. And but at the time I was like, that's a little weird. And I had heard her on another program going on about how how horrible it is that Trump got elected and all he wants to do is make America white again. And I'm like, really? Does she think that's how I feel?
Mm-hmm.
Guy. And so, she's just going, "Well, that's the way he is. He's a troublemaker." I'm like, I'm going to tell him off. And she goes, "Well, you do whatever you want to do." And she said I wouldn't recommend that. She did try to stop me.
Right.
But she said, "Do whatever you have to do." So anyway, it just got me so angry and my head's pounding. And so I sent him a private message and just... It was ugly.
Unleashed.
It was very ugly. There were things that I wouldn't have said because it was so over-the-top angry. But I called him a nasty little which is a terrible thing to say, but to me, he was using being gay as this, I'm a victim, poor me, I have to worry about what Trump is going to do, and all these horrible people are going to attack me. It's like, come on, that's the opposite of gay pride.
And also, I would argue, then probably using that same victimhood as a justification to lash out at you.
Yes.
And to be nasty and ugly to you.
Yes.
So it's like, he's able to own and embrace the identity when it's kind of being weaponized to be vicious against somebody.
Bingo.
But the moment that you actually call it out for what it is, you're the person who's going to pay the price.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
And also, I forgot to include this. He was calling and having people call my real job, my civilian job, and say, she shouldn't be working with children and yada, yada, yada. So,
well, and let's be clear here. This was, I'm sure you can, say whether you regret using that language or not, and it was a private email.
Yes.
You didn't do this on social media or on the radio
No.
So no one ever even needed to read it besides him. And it could have been handled as a private matter. That could have happened.
Yes,
Did
it
he
was
keep
a
it
private
private?
matter. I may have told my people on my Facebook page, hey, go look and see what this guy is saying about me. But no, it was a private matter. It should have stayed private, but he made it public. So my friends are saying that they had heard that he hired a PR firm or that his husband did or something. And the next thing I know, it's like on the news. It must have been a slow news week.
But he published the email.
Yes, he published the email, which wasn't very flattering, and said that I had been fired. that LA Talk Radio had fired me.
What was kind of the fallout from having the email published? Did it kind of start to spread in the media? Were you getting phone call?
We had a helicopter above my home. It was like ambush time, and the only thing I would have left the house for would be toilet paper. Because I was ugly, I was crying, I was upset, and I was migraining, which makes me cry over everything anyway.
But it was Cindy Brady had gone on an unhinged homophobic tirade.
Yes.
And I think it was even reported that this was publicly, that you had done it on the radio.
Yes.
And
that was the implication, at least. It was implied that I was fired for a homophobic rant.
When in fact you weren't even fired.
No.
Right.
No, I wasn't.
From the radio show.
I was not.
Right.
I was not. I did stop doing the political show, but I stayed with LA Talk Radio for the next 2.5 years. So back to the reboot, we let them know that.
Well, before we get back to the reboot, though, I want to take a moment to address, what do you have to say about the allegation that you're homophobic, or that do you consider yourself an ally to the gay community, or what has been your history there?
Okay, I've been an ally to the gay community since way before it was cool. When I was 9 years old, my mother told me that Robert Reed was gay. And I didn't know what that was. She explained it to me, and I said, well, okay, so he likes men. Big deal.
This would have been in the 70s?
Yeah,
Early
71.
So people knew back then? People knew?
No.
Behind the scenes. How did your mother know?
No, because Florence told her.
Florence knew.
Yes.
Got it.
Yes.
Okay.
Florence and Bob were very close. And I don't know, my mom has this strange way of, people confide. My mom was the kind of person, and by the way, my mom had a lot of experience being a stage mom.
Okay.
My brother Chris was in the movie The Man Who Knew Too Much, which was directed by Alfred Hitchcock.
Yes.
My mother was the person that Doris Day came to confide to her, I don't know how I'm doing. Hitch won't give me any feedback. And yeah, so my mom was just the kind of person that people like to talk to.
Yeah.
She was
gets
very
the tea.
trustworthy. And so she told me, I guess she wanted me to know before I heard it somewhere else or heard that it was a bad thing. Well, nothing that Robert Reed was could ever be bad to me. He was the magical man. Everything about him was good. And so I was like, well, okay, so he loves men. That's fine. Who cares? And you know what? None of us kids talked about it. This is funny. We never shared our knowledge until Maureen McCormick's wedding night. And we all sat around talking, and Maureen said, it's such a shame that Bob didn't come. She goes, I wish I could have let him know. Bring a date, whether it's a guy or a girl. And one of us said, wait a minute, he's gay? And I think Eve said, who knew? We all knew.
Going back even to the childhood.
Well, I think I was the first to know because I was only 9.
And the youngest.
Yeah.
Huh.
And I think that some had found out after the show was canceled or maybe during the variety hour, whatever. We all knew, and we had all never talked about it.
Wow.
Yeah.
Why do you think that was?
Because I think we felt like it was none of our business.
Okay.
And we knew that Bob was in the closet. Yeah.
So it was almost like a respect thing.
Oh, totally.
Yeah.
Totally, because that was another thing that my mother said to me. My mother was super wise. And when I was like 15, we were doing the variety hour. I said, gee, it's a shame Bob doesn't feel comfortable. And she said, oh, no, he's doing the right thing. Because if he came out of the closet, she goes, Hollywood's such a bunch of hypocrites that if he came out of the closet, everybody would applaud and go, oh, you're so brave. And they wouldn't hire him again. And she was right. That's exactly the way it went. So, you know, he couldn't come out.
And the irony of here, you know, just a few decades later, you're being canceled for the presumption of not being gay positive enough.
Right, exactly, for being homophobic.
Right.
Which it was funny because then when the headlines were out, then my friends are calling me again. How are they going to make homophobes stick to you? You're a fag hag.
Well, and isn't there even a meme of you as like a young girl, as young Cindy Brady? That
was something that I made. I had just gotten off the phone with Robert Reed's daughter, and the Supreme Court was deciding whether or not to allow gay marriage.
Mm-hmm.
And his best friend, her name is Anne Haney. She was an actress. She said to us at his funeral, she goes, you know, the saddest thing is that Bob was never allowed to have a love of his life. And, you know, that was the most painful thing to me. Well, I had just learned he wasn't just not allowed to have a love of his life. He wasn't allowed to have the love of his life. He did have somebody. He had somebody that he loved very much. And he broke it off because it would have destroyed his career. So I was fiery mad. And I just found this picture of me as Cindy Brady. I think it was from the first season, so I'm really little and cute. And it's me, I'm at my bed praying. And you have Bob and Florence at the foot of my bed watching me as I pray. So I took that picture and I photoshopped a thought bubble saying, please God, let the Supreme Court know that you approve of gay marriage. And I posted that as my cover picture on Facebook. Well, next thing I know, I didn't know Huffington Post could do this. It was republished in Huffington Post, and then everybody else republished it. And it was fine with me. You know, I was glad to have it out there. I had all these people, you know, coming to me saying, oh, you're so wonderful. Oh, thank you for being on our side. Even cast members that when I first went on the set of Child of the 70s were coming up to me and saying, thank you so much. It means a lot to have somebody who's straight stick up for us. And I'm like, well, yeah, of course. You know, of course I'm going to. It's not fair. This isn't fair at all. And especially since I knew, you know, Bob probably would have loved to be married. Oh, and I went on a rant. I wrote something saying that Bob would have been the best husband to a man ever because he was just such a great guy and he was so fun and he loved to decorate. Like he'd put up wallpaper and paint and molding and, you know, he had decorated his daughter's room because she was going to be spending the summer, and he had all three of us girls come and look at it and said, what do you think of it? He had my mother, once again, confiding to my mom, come here, Dee, what do you think of this room? And yeah, it was wonderful. But
he was Mike Brady.
Yes, and he wanted to be Mike Brady. He hated the Brady Bunch.
He did?
He hated the show. He thought it was the dumbest thing ever.
He did?
He was a Shakespearean actor. And he would nitpick, like, to the point where it was like, okay, Bob, come on. Like having a fit over the fact that Alice and Carol are cooking strawberry preserves, and he has to walk into the kitchen and say, it smells like strawberry heaven. No, he's like, I'll have you know that strawberries have no odor when they're being cooked. But he loved us kids, and he loved us like a father.
Yes.
And his you know, he'd been divorced, and his ex-wife took his daughter to Chicago. And so we kind of got the love that he wanted to give to her. He missed her terribly. So he loved being a dad.
So you very well established, obviously, kind of legacy of being supportive, being an ally to the. But now,
I used to go to an AIDS hospice. I think the first one in Los Angeles, because a friend of mine was a volunteer there, and I was illustrating a book presentation for him and Olivia Newton-John. And so I would go over there to show him sketches and paintings, and then I would visit all the people who were dying, and once again, my mother, geez, Mom, she's like, I don't believe you can get it from casual contact. So I had no problem hugging people.
Yeah.
When we didn't know, and going in there, and Cindy Brady's coming to visit you, and give you a hug. And I mean, these were people whose families had shunned them.
Right, they had nobody.
Yeah. So I would go there and visit, and it was tough. It was a really rough thing to do, but
But you were there, like, all the time. And this is, I think, when we talk about cancel culture and things, this is one of the most astounding things to me, is that a person's whole life and whole legacy can be erased in a moment. And it really gives you this clear picture of how much so many people, I think, want to cancel people. They secretly love it. They enjoy it.
Oh, yeah.
Because this even happened to Roseanne. I mean, if you go back and you look at those old episodes of the original Roseanne series, there were so many cutting edge ways in which she addressed race and racism. And it was always from this perspective of racism is bad. These things, this is not good. But the second that somebody had an opportunity to say, you're a racist, it's like dog pile. Everybody was on it. So in a way, the same thing happened to you.
Absolutely. And I'd say also that the reason why it happened to me was because I said that I voted for Trump.
Of course.
That was the number one reason. And that's why it caught fire and became headlines. Same thing with Roseanne.
Yeah, exactly right.
And so it's like you can say any horrible, hateful, awful thing you want as long as you're on the left.
Yes. Well, and that's true. I mean, when you look back at some of the, just a few that come to mind are shortly after Donald Trump got elected, or maybe it doesn't matter if it was before or after. I remember on The View, Kelly Osbourne making that comment about, if you get rid of Mexicans, who's going to clean your toilet, Donald Trump? Can you imagine if a conservative said something like that? Can you imagine? I mean, we'd be canceled for eternity.
Oh,
it's like people don't even care that she said that.
And her mother was canceled from The Talk for agreeing with Piers Morgan.
That's right.
When he said he wasn't buying what the royal couple were saying.
That's right.
About the racism in the royal family.
That's right.
Yeah. I mean, she didn't even express an opinion. She just said, look, Pierce is my friend, and I support his views.
That's enough these days. I mean, the trigger happiness is there when it comes to this stuff. And again, I think that people secretly get a delight in destroying other people if they can't get the person to comply with what they believe is the regime-approved narrative, whatever that happens to be. And so okay.
These are the brown shirts.
So now you've got this. We're at the reboot. We're talking about kind of defining the characters, integrating some of your own personal politics into this. You get contacted by your agent saying CBS has an issue with you. The issue is they've gone digging through your past because now they know you supported Trump. You've been open and you've spoken about that. So, of course, they have to go digging through your closet looking for something. The best thing they can come up with is this old allegation that you may have used an inappropriate comment when talking to a gay man at some point. Mm-hmm. What happens next?
Okay, so I established that, it wasn't a homophobic rant on the air, but, there is this scar. This is on my reputation. And, you can find it in search engines. And actually, when we were doing the HGTV show, I considered getting hiring a service to, scrub the web for me. And, but it didn't come up. And I thought, well, okay, maybe my friends are right. Just let it go and it will die. It will go away. But, CBS found it. So we tried to explain it. And they said, well, they came back and said, would you be willing to take a course in, I guess, political correctness? I forget what they call these courses.
Tolerance.
Whatever. Re-education camp. Gee, yeah. Oh, sure, I'd love to. But you know what? I actually did. I thought, hey, it will greenlight the show, which, I mean, this is the least I can do for my siblings because, they're having a problem with me.
Well, and that's a good point because you're probably feeling too like, oh, I'm going to screw this up for everybody.
Yes.
Right? Okay.
Oh, yes, yes. And so, yeah, okay. And also, if this is going to come up, if people are going to ask me questions about this, I want to know. I want to consult with media experts to tell me what I should say. What is my perfect script that I should say whenever this comes up? So I was like, you know what? I want to do this. Yes, this is a good idea. Let me know when and where. It was the day before Thanksgiving that I talked to the people because I was baking a pie. And I said, I have time off work. I don't work again until after the new year. Let's do this. And so I was told that I would be informed of where to go. And, the camp is over here.
Yeah. Well, and what was
Get
it?
in the boxcar, Susan.
What actually, did you have to go somewhere? Were there other people? Were there other
waiting.
child stars who had made inappropriate
I was hoping. I thought it might be fun and interesting.
Sure.
And as I said to my agent, I said, what could be bad from learning something new?
Yeah.
That doesn't hurt. I didn't get that call. Instead, I got another call saying, we need to do a web search on Susan. And I'm thinking, well, I have been very political. I had a political show. So, of course, I would stir the crap. I would put out things so I could get people's feedback.
Of course.
And this is my research. This is how I prepared for our weekly show. And so, I put out an opinion. Sometimes the opinion might be a little bit further than what I felt, but just to see, okay, come on, what do you have to say about that? And, but I thought, well, anything that I've said, if I put it out there, then I meant it.
Well, let me ask you, was this post-COVID?
Yes, it was.
Well, so there's got to be something there. I mean, because everybody had an opinion about, I'm sure, did you have opinions about vaccines, about masks, about?
Yes, I did. I absolutely did. And, but I hadn't been political while we were making the HGTV show.
Okay.
Because that's just, as a professional, when you're under contract with somebody, you don't want to burden them.
Sure.
With your politics. Unless if I was doing a political show at the time, we would have had to discuss that. Or I would have laid low. I wasn't doing the show, and I just really thought, no, don't be controversial. Just do happy posts and show, of course, we couldn't show the house because it was top secret. I just sort of laid low. I'd post videos of my cats. So I'm like, well, yeah, okay. But at that point, I thought, well, people do know that this vaccine is not what it was sold as, but okay. Because I was vocal about that, because I felt like people needed to be warned. It's like, do your own research, find out what you can. So anyway, they did a web search, and they came up with 50 pages of dangerous.
Cindy Gone Wild.
Yeah. Yep. And the the resounding result was, no, we cannot have her in a show. If we go forward with this project, it will not be with her. And to be honest, those 50 pages were like my greatest hits. I stand by everything I said. I don't just say things.
So you weren't sitting there going, oh, why did I say this? Why did I say this? No.
No, not at all.
This is how you felt.
Yeah. And I'm the kind of person that if you think I'm guilty of something, I will immediately act guilty. I will assume it. And I'll feel guilty, even if I'm not. And this was something where I was like, well, wait a minute. I was hoping to be a little bit controversial on the show.
Sure.
I was going to be a libertarian podcaster.
Shake it up a little bit.
Yeah. And, okay, I am what I was going to portray. So, what kind of a show would this be if I can't say anything that's controversial? But I did, I felt a little bit bad because I thought, well, because I did have the phone call where it was, what was my siblings calling me and my agent, and everybody saying, we're so sorry, but they won't budge. They just will not have you in this. And I'm like, wow, I've been canceled. A role that I've played for over 50 years, I can't play it now because I'm too dangerous. So I was like, well, okay, guys, good luck. I hope you can sell it. And so, I just knew I wasn't going to say anything, even though my first thought was, well, I want to go, look what happened. But I thought, no, because they still want to sell it. And so don't do anything that might ruin their chances of selling the show.
Because you're still thinking about your Brady brethren, and you're
Yeah.
I'm sure you were deeply hurt, but thinking
Oh, I was.
you don't want to hurt them.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And they didn't really seem to hold it against me. But, I'm sure that to some extent, I mean, Mike Lookinland had to have been going, oh, jeez, Susan and her politics, because he and I would get into these arguments, and always, end up loving each other, when it's all said and done. But, they knew I did a political show. They know I'm very political. They know what side I'm on. So,
And by the
there
way,
you
your
have it.
opinions represent at least half of the country. So this idea that, you might have a character on a show who's sharing opinions that half the country agrees with,
Well,
God forbid.
that's just it. And it was the same thing as, like, what was so wrong with Roseanne? I honestly believe it goes back to her voting for Trump and
It does.
this desire to vilify anybody who didn't fit the status quo.
Absolutely.
So then I finally had what I call the Inquisition, which is like a year later. And it was a showrunner and producer and the son of our original creator, Sherwood Schwartz. And my agent, they wanted to do a Zoom meeting with me talking about, well, how can we move forward and maybe try to get past CBS and maybe, sell them on you or whatever. Anyway, so we had this Zoom meeting, and which afterwards my agent said, wow, I wasn't expecting that. But it was an Inquisition, and these are the people that are supposed to be on my side. And it was just, every single issue of the day, where do you stand on it? And I mean, it was like, and I was respectful. I didn't say what I wanted to say, but it's like, my God, you drank every drop of the Kool-Aid. You've fallen for everything.
So you're dealing with the showrunners, producer, and they're asking you about political issues. How do you feel about this?
Yes.
Where do you stand on this? Where do you stand on
Yes.
this? Have you ever in your life experienced something like that? In your years of working on television, has anything like that ever happened to you before?
No. I mean, and I was never political, until maybe 15 years ago. No, and frankly, that's not anybody's business. That was always the thing. Was
Right.
you could sue if somebody fires you for your political stance. You can sue them. You can't sue them for not hiring you. But anyway, so these are the people that are supposed to be on my side. I mean, even things like, oh, come on, by now we know that the vaccine was not safe or effective, right?
No, we can't say that.
They still thought it was safe and effective.
Okay.
And kept you out of the hospital. And the trans children. Well, if you don't give them early treatment, they will commit suicide. And I'm like, you want to imagine the suicide rate for somebody who realizes that they've done irreparable damage to their own body and will probably never enjoy sex again?
Well, and this was something they wanted to bring into the show, too. Didn't you tell me?
Well, one of the characters was going to be trans.
Was this one of Jan's kids?
Yeah. I wasn't going to name her. There was also a black spouse. And, to that, I was like, come on, let's not be so obvious. And,
That's the thing. It's
Yeah.
so overt.
Yeah.
It's so overt.
Let's make this black spouse somebody who has a really close relationship with another Brady. And that's how this Brady met them. Give them a foundation so this isn't a token position, because I don't mind the whole token thing, but let's treat it with some depth.
Sure.
And that could be great.
Give it layering, give it depth, make it make sense.
And I'm a writer.
Not insult the audience's intelligence, because this is one thing, and I identify as a conservative at this point, but people on the left will say, these bigoted people on the right, they just don't want to see a gay person or a trans person, or they don't want to see too many black people on TV. It's like, it's not that, you guys. It's that we know what you're doing, and it's so distracting. I mean, when you turn on a TV show and you've got a Chinese person and a black person and a trans person and a person in a wheelchair, and it's like, oh my God, why don't you beat us over the head with, we get what you're trying to do. And we get that you think that we all need to be taught a lesson. That you're trying to teach us something.
Yeah, catch up.
What?
We're not like this. I mean, how many times have I watched something on TV and I read the book? I'm like, wait a minute. That character wasn't gay.
Yeah.
That character wasn't trans. It's like, come on.
Right.
We don't, in this, systemic racism and all this. I'm sorry, we elected a black president twice.
Right. So what did they bring to you as a suggestion for Cindy's character?
Oh, I love this. Okay. One of the suggestions was like, well, what if we make, turn Cindy's opinions into like a teaching moment? Like, let's say you encounter a gay couple and you have a real hard time with that, and your nieces and nephews explain to you that gay people are okay, and you come around and you decide that, yeah, it's okay. Kind of like, that won't bake a cake for the gay wedding kind of thing. And I'm like, no, I will not let you make Cindy a bigot. No, that is not okay. That is not a teaching moment. That is Cindy's an asshole moment.
Right.
I wouldn't play that. Of course, I don't own the rights to the character. They can write her any way that they want, but I wouldn't play her that way. And, so far we were supposed to have a hand in what our characters were doing. I'm like, no, that's not good. And then finally, it just goes on and on and on. And everything that I believe in and every horrible thing that I've said on social media, I just like, you guys, I'm sorry. I can't play the game. I know too much. I can't go along with the status quo because I feel it's wrong. It's very wrong. I also think that this show stands for a lot of things that the left are attacking. I can't do this.
What is it that you think the Brady Bunch represents that the left is attacking, and what do you think it means to people, that show?
I think it represents family. It represents a nuclear family, which, it might be a rarity these days to have a mother and a father, especially having a stay-at-home mother. But the show was brought to you from a child's fantasy. It's like the ideal. And so you have a mother and a father. You even have a housekeeper. You have kids that respect each other and their parents, and parents that respect the kids. You know that they're together, that they'll always have each other's backs. And I think the most obvious thing is a standard of living. I'd take that house. A standard of living that a middle-class family could have that can't be had anymore. And if things keep going the way they are, I would think that the Brady Bunch will be banned.
Right.
Just because it would show how things used to be.
Well, and the interesting thing I think is that in its own way, for its own time, it was sort of a little bit progressive, whatever that meant at that time. I mean, you had a blended family coming together, which was not really seen up until that point. You know, the mother had her kids, the father had his kids. They kind of came together. But also, I think that, you know, Florence was a very strong character. Carol Brady was a strong character, but also a clearly well-defined mother. You know, she was feminine and nurturing, and even when the families came together, the boys would go to her for maternal love, but the father was strong and competent and capable,
which is extremely rare. That was another rare thing that we had. The patriarchy was exemplified by a man who was not an idiot.
Right?
They didn't make him a dullard. You know, I love Homer Simpson, but you know, he's no Mike Brady.
Yes.
And Mike was holding down the fort and showing what's good about patriotism.
Right.
You know, some of us love our fathers.
Right.
And some of us we're blessed enough to have two good ones.
And so when you look at that, these are, I think, some of the ideals that are really being eroded. They're really being destroyed, I think, by modern culture and modern politics. And at this time, when we have a show like The Brady Bunch and so few shows today that sort of exemplify those values that people care about so much, but we're losing them. We're losing them. So they're talking about doing a reboot, but they want to do this. And you say to them, no, I'm going to walk away from this, even though you would have been walking away from money. You would have been walking away from a steady paycheck, a job. And I think the chance to do something that would have been really probably fun to be working once again with your co-stars.
It would have been life-changing money. I mean, I was spending it in my head. But also, I didn't quite say I'm walking away. Not just yet. I said I can't play the game. And I said, and really, you shouldn't want me to, because the character that we've developed thinks like I do. And they're like, well, you know, we're never going to get CBS to sign off on you unless I declare that I'm wrong about everything, which was never going to happen. And I said, well, okay, fine. You know, this is me. This is who I am. This is how I am. And if that's not going to work, then it's not going to work. It was later on, after digesting this, it was later on that my agent called me again and said, well, you know, CBS won't sign off on you, but there is a way that we might be able to do this, or we can circumvent them and blah, blah, blah. And he says, what do you say? I said, no, I'm done. At this point, you're going to have a woke Brady Bunch, and I want no part of it.
Wow. See, in my opinion, I think that's really brave, because I think you stood up at a time when the easier thing to do would have been to just go along, to compromise your values, to compromise your integrity, to, you know, let them do what they wanted to do. You could have made the paycheck, made the money, could have had a lot of fun, could have put your name and your face back out there again.
Those are all the things my agent said.
What are you thinking, you idiot?
Because just do the pilot.
Yeah.
No, I don't like what this project is standing for.
Well, I want to ask you though, because you know, I asked, you know, other people what do you want me to ask her, and I think the question I got more than anything was, okay, so you want to walk away from woke Hollywood. I get that. I think people understand why. But is it your intention to, and before I ask this, I'll say, I know that you weren't immersed in it. It's not like you were, you know, just doing a TV show a year ago or 2 years ago, but is there part of you that wants to dig in your heels and fight and try to make the culture better and change the culture? Or are you just leaving?
Oh, no. I want to fight.
Good. All right.
Yeah, definitely. I've always said I will die fighting.
Wow.
I haven't pursued acting since I was 23, and that was 40 years ago, because it's just not really my medium. But I want to fight for America. I want to fight for the Constitution. I want to fight for what the founders and framers designed, which is the best system we've ever had. I absolutely hate to see that go. There's no place to move to, really. So I'm going to be here. Yeah, I'll fight.
Good for you.
Sure.
If you had a message for your Brady brethren that you wanted to say to do you keep in contact with them?
I do.
You do?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Not a whole lot. We're all very lazy about that. But
You
I just saw Mike and Barry 2 weekends ago.
Yeah. Do you want to give them a shout out? Is there anything you want to say to your Brady
I
brethren?
love you guys. I love you. And you know that I'll talk your ears off and try to persuade you to see things the way I do. But, you know.
But they're not mad at you.
I don't. One of them might be.
Okay. Spill the tea. Spill the tea. Spill the tea.
I think Eve was not on the call with the rest of them, and she and I had been kind of renewing our friendship. She's a painter. I just started getting back into art and was really painting for the first time. I had always been an airbrush artist and was using oils and she sent me a book and praised my efforts, and I was like, oh wow, I got Eve back in my life. But she wasn't present in the conversation, saying, sorry, Susan, we're so sorry that you're not going to be part of this. And I think she feels betrayed. I think she feels like,
by you?
Damn it, why can't she just keep her darn mouth shut? Why does she have to go and, God, who could vote for Trump? I think she really thinks that he's evil, and she has a right to think that way.
Is she not speaking to you?
Well, I mean, we weren't really speaking before, but then we started, and to me, it was just the fact that she wasn't present for that.
But yeah,
call.
there's a difference between we haven't talked and we're not talking.
Okay, I think it's more like we're not talking. But I mean, if
let's get you two back together. Can I be in the middle and facilitate that?
I don't want it. If she's not into it, I don't want to force people into things. And I'll guarantee you, if she came out and started talking to me, I would act like nothing happened.
Sure.
Yeah, we'd just pick right up, and I'd say, "This is the latest painting I've done."
Well,
doesn't it suck?
I still want to facilitate that. I'm a good bridge. I'm a good healer. And I think for the sake of America, we want all the Brady sisters united once again. So hopefully at some point, because everybody hates to see politics pull people apart. It's stupid. Yeah, it's stupid.
But I mean, I'm sorry, but when a certain side is vilifying white males, and we saw Biden get up with that red background and talk about
his Hitler
white
speech.
Men.
Yeah.
Yes. You're vilifying my son. You're threatening my child. That makes you my enemy. And to some extent, I think anybody that votes for this totalitarianism is kind of an enemy too. Our kids, my son's generation, they don't have any hope of owning a home. We sold them out. And it's standing for, I'm sorry, what's happening to this country, which I think is really horrible, is far more important to me. My country is more important to me than my job.
Than selling out and a paycheck. I think the reason why first of all, it's a great story. It's a fascinating story. And I've really, in this brief amount of time, enjoyed getting to know you better. But I want people to hear more stories like this, because I hear literally on a daily basis, and I'm not exaggerating, from people all over the country who say to me, I'm scared to death about what's happening to our country. I'm scared of what's happening to our culture, but I'm afraid to speak up because I might lose my job, or it might put my relationship in jeopardy with my coworkers or my children and these are all compelling reasons to be quiet.
Yeah.
But at a certain point, if you don't become brave and take a stand, I think there's something much greater that we're all at risk of losing. And you stood up for that. And a lot of people wouldn't have done that. And I want to commend you for that.
Thank you. I mean, it could
I think it's
be
heroic.
foolish on my part, but I've always had a very strong sense of justice and what's right and wrong. And I don't really mean to besmirch the people that showrunner and producer and such. I think that they swallowed the Kool-Aid. I don't think that they intend to destroy the country by any means. And I don't think that they see that. I believe that is the intention. That is what's going on in the back of the real elitist heads. So I may criticize the Democrat Party, but I'm not criticizing Democrats.
Sure.
Yeah.
No, I get that. I absolutely get that. And it's an excellent point that you just made, because so much of what they do are really Trojan horses for sort of like ushering because that's the reason why so many of us, myself included, were liberals in the first place, because we thought we were a part of something that was going to make the world a better place.
Yes.
Or we were a part of something that was going to help all people, be lifted up or achieve equality or equity or things like that. And it sounds good, and the language that they use sounds really good until you start to investigate what the real agenda is sort of behind everything,
Yes.
which is ultimately very destructive. So I get your point entirely, because so many people support well, why wouldn't you? What, you don't support equality? You don't support? Of course I support these things.
Yeah.
But there's something darker behind that, and it's a Trojan horse.
Exactly. It is as though the Democrat Party, which is not the party that it used to be.
No.
This is all due to infiltration of other influences. They've taken liberal people's good intentions and weaponized them.
100%.
Totally weaponized them. The end result will be the exact opposite of what these people want. Didn't the Democrats used to be the party of no war?
Right.
Well, who's the party of war now?
Right.
That's half the reason right there that I'm voting for Trump now.
Right.
I don't want more wars.
Well, and you brought up the conversation earlier when you were talking about the border, and that we do sort of have this like mass influx of illegal immigration in this country. And the left likes to say, oh, well, that's bigoted. Why are you against opening up our country to anybody? Well, we want people to come into our country the legal way so that we know who they are. Yes. We know what their background is. We know if these people are coming here with the intention of assimilating to American values. But when you've got literally millions of people flooding into our country illegally under the Biden-Harris regime, and I'm a gay man, you're a woman. I mean, do you think that you're safer as a woman with a country filled with people we don't know who they are, where they've come from? Me as a gay man, I mean, eventually, my opinion is that the goal of the Democrats is eventually to allow all these people to be able to vote.
Oh, well, absolutely. We're going through that right now. Imagine that. They're voting against having to show ID to vote.
Look at how long it took us in the United States of America to attain marriage rights for gay people. And then you want people from the other side of the world, who some of them are shoving gay people off of buildings. You want to bring people to this country, give them voting rights. What do you think is going to happen to all of this progress that we made in the LGBT community, or feminism, or racial equality? All of these things. This is going to destroy us from the inside out.
Absolutely. And I fully believe that is completely the intention. This is going to create the chaos that they need. There's never been a totalitarian takeover where they didn't create chaos in the first place. You look at the Frankfurt School. Look at. If you say, "Oh, this is communism," you sound kind of silly because of McCarthy. But call it whatever you want. It's collectivism. It's fascism. It's globalism. It's not the way that the country was designed to be run. We are supposed to have small government. We are supposed to be self-governing as much as we can be. And I do believe that, well, in the first place, you never hear Harris or Biden talking about the good reasons for why that border's open. What is the altruistic reason?
Right.
Please tell me. I'm all ears.
Sure.
All they can say is you're a bigot if you have something against it. To which I say, well, okay, if you believe that, then don't lock your door at night.
Sure.
Because the people that come in just want better stuff.
Right.
You're so selfish.
Well, and I seem to remember an incident that took place just a few years ago in which all the people in D.C. were very upset when people came near an area where they weren't supposed to be.
Boy, do you know about that.
And suddenly the ideas of, fences and borders were very, very important.
Yeah, isn't that funny?
But they're not so important, when it's just the southern border.
Not when it comes to protecting us, we the people.
Right.
Yeah.
Isn't that interesting?
Amazing.
Yeah. Barricades are very important things sometimes.
We have political prisoners now, thanks to that.
That's right.
And this country was never supposed to have political prisoners.
Right.
Everybody was to have due process. And it just seems like I have a friend that would always say, when people go, well, but we have the Constitution. Well, when was the last time you saw the Constitution stand up and defend itself? It requires people to defend it. And people aren't doing that.
Well, and this is what I think is going back to the point we were making a moment ago about the Trojan horse aspect of this. They have done an unbelievably remarkable job of convincing people that giving up their liberties is a good and positive thing. And, 2020, my God, I hope that we're able to get past the damage that was done in 2020. But I mean, they began convincing people it's good and noble to give up your business, your right to work, your right to go outside, your right to wear or not wear whatever you want to wear. But I think even most chillingly of all, censorship and suppression, that suppressing ideas or questions is a good and noble thing if these ideas and questions are contradictory to the establishment narrative. So many, firsthand. I mean, asking questions about the vaccines, asking questions about the shutdowns. Well, you shouldn't even have a voice on social media anymore. You should be permanently banned and silenced or suppressed.
Yeah, and you look at all the doctors that lost their license for things like telling people to take vitamin D.
Ivermectin, something that had been used for eons.
When Rachel Madcow had that story about how people were lined up for blocks with gunshot wounds because the hospital was filled with people who had OD'd on ivermectin. Okay, in the first place, Rachel, where was the massacre? Where was this mass shooting? Wouldn't that be the headline?
You'd think.
Yeah. And second of all, besides the fact that you stole the story from Rolling Stone, ivermectin. And I had ivermectin laying around because I do animal rescue. That ivermectin won the Nobel Prize.
Right.
And that wasn't because it worms horses well. That was because it saved thousands and thousands of lives in Africa.
That's right.
Wait a minute. Those were black lives.
Oh, isn't that interesting?
You saying those don't matter,
right.
Rachel? Oh, they're livestock. That's what you're saying. That's a medicine for livestock. No. Now that, to me, that's being racist.
Agreed. So where does the Brady reboot stand?
I think it's dead in the water, and that's why I'm talking to you. Somebody called me, wanted me to talk. And I had just gotten that phone call from my agent saying, we're still going to try. And I said, well, count me out. I thought, oh gosh, I can't go out and say something because I don't want to lessen the chances. I do want them to do well. I love these people. Maybe they'll invite me over to their nice houses.
Well, so are you telling me that...
But it's done.
Okay, but are you telling me that it's off the table that a new reboot could be proposed? That's
I don't
where
know.
we kind of go back to the drawing board?
Well, we're getting kind of old. But then again, so is America.
Maybe it's kind of like a Brady Golden Girls kind of thing.
Right.
Like
I
a
was
shady
thinking
Brady
the iconic,
Pines.
okay, the iconic stairway. We all have those little chair lifts. Yeah.
Well, no, I think, we love reboots. We love reboots.
Really?
And and we love the Brady. America wants this. I'm telling you. Yes. 100%. But I think that you're right, and I'm really glad that you did what you did, because we don't want to see the characters that we love so much and the family that we love so much transported into this like woke realm that's unrecognizable to us. And if that's going to happen,
That's a betrayal.
It
I'm
is a betrayal.
I said to the gang, I said, I hope you realize how much our fans are not going to want a woke Brady Bunch. Because, I mean, I don't do a lot of them, but I now and then, because I'm not wealthy, I will go do an autograph show, and I'll be in the heartland, and people, they love us, and they love us for the right reasons. And then, okay, ever since all this happened, I'm totally political now,
right
on Facebook.
It's out there.
Oh yeah, I have doubled down, and I have so many people come up to me and go, "Thank you so much for not being one of those Hollywood liberals."
Mm-hmm. People they love when they see themselves represented. And I think that's the whole point. Like, even if they were to do a reboot, or if it ever, is back on the table that this could be a project, it's fine. You don't have to remove all the wokeness. You just need balance.
Yeah.
Because that's normal. Have a few woke characters, have their conservative counterparts, let us enjoy the back and forth dialogue and that conversation and coming to terms on both sides. That's your teachable moment right there, because we don't have that in reality anymore. We just have division and separation. Mm-hmm. Show us how to come together. That's the teachable moment.
Well, and you only show one side in a favorable way. I mean, I said in the start, if we're going to have a trans kid, can't I be the aunt that's trying to talk them out of doing anything permanent?
Yeah.
I mean, show both sides. We could use that. I that's why I was thinking that it could have been a good show. But I doubt that. I think it's pretty much dead in the water. I'm not sad to wave goodbye at Hollywood either. I know I'm about as popular as a leper in Hollywood. I took a look at the Oscars because I was on my way somewhere better. I was picking up a friend, and she had the Oscars on. I'm looking around. Everybody's got these pins with the red palm, and I know what that red palm is. I
don't.
know what happened in Ramallah. Well, probably half of the celebritards just thought that it meant I like to go to a psychic and get my palm read. It stands for Jewish blood.
Oh, okay.
And it was a lynching that happened in Ramallah. 2 Israeli soldiers got lost and ended up at the police station, and then locals found out about it, and they went in and ripped them limb from limb.
Wow. In
a very, very heinous way. I'm aware there is their side of the story too, but I'm sorry, this support, I can see having compassion for Palestine, but support of Hamas is evil.
Yes, well, and that's, I think the Democrats really have a real problem, because they've catered to this sort of extremist fringe side of their base for so long. And now it's very hard to put that back in the bottle once it's out, so we see at these Kamala Harris rallies, the protesters shouting out at her, and even at times she doesn't know what to do. And it's like, well, you created this problem. Deal with it.
Yeah, and it's from not being honest in the first place.
That's right.
And not standing really for anything. And they're losing their base. They're losing. But, there's just so many people out there that don't want to believe that their party has gone so askew, and they don't want to believe that. Every generation says this is the most important election ever. Well, maybe each election is, but this one I think really does mean make or break it.
I agree with that.
I think that I don't think America will survive 4 years.
No, I don't either. I don't think it's possible, and I don't even think. I think that if Kamala Harris becomes the next president, I think that half the country. I don't think the country survives, but I also don't think that half the country can survive this constant drumbeat of gaslighting. Mm-hmm. I mean, it's taken a toll on me. I mean, I can honestly say just the constant daily disinformation, misinformation, being called things that we're not, being accused of things we didn't do, being mislabeled, being fired, being canceled, and none of it's real. And that we've gotten to this point where you can't even reason with people anymore. I mean, I did several speaking engagements just in the last 7 days, and I was protested a couple of days ago in Wisconsin, and I'm supposed to be going to Syracuse to do a college event in about a week. But the protesters in Wisconsin were all holding signs calling me a violent insurrectionist, election denier, all of these things. And I'm going, I pled guilty to a Class B misdemeanor for disorderly conduct. I was never accused of any violence, vandalism, theft, or destruction. Didn't commit any, didn't even witness any. And I think most people with common sense look at my case and think he shouldn't even have been charged with a misdemeanor. And I think that most people understand why I pled guilty to that. And then this event coming up in Syracuse, New York, the school said that they're unwilling to provide funding for me to come because they said most of the students would feel unsafe and uncomfortable with somebody there who broke federal law.
Oh, my Lord. And that's why they do it, though, so that you have the label. Like, Trump is a felon now.
Oh, yeah, it's like
even
the Scarlet
Eye.
Eye.
Even though it was a misdemeanor, past the... how can you have an insurrection, an unarmed insurrection?
Yeah.
How does that happen?
Right.
It didn't happen. And people, you want to know what they're planning on doing? Just look at everything that they accuse Trump of doing. It'll be the last
100%.
election.
100%. Their playbook
projection.
is always what they're accusing you of doing. If they're accusing you of doing it, they're doing it.
Bingo.
So prepare yourself. 100%.
Yes. I mean, we have the queen of Russian collusion still saying, that would be Hillary, still saying that there's Russian collusion, that's why she lost the election.
Right.
No, it was because people didn't like you. Deniers. They really, really don't like you.
No. No, they don't like. Well, and they don't like me. They do, because I left the cult, as I call it. I think for myself. I'm a gay man, so that makes me like the biggest traitor of all. When they call me that all the time on social media, you're a traitor, and they're referring to January 6th, but what they really mean is that you're how dare you leave the ideology? How dare you leave the Democrats? How dare you? Well. Because
the hive brain.
How dare you leave the hive? And the interesting thing is, and I have the damnedest time trying to get them to understand, I'm actually trying to advocate on behalf of gay people and black people and brown people, because you can't call yourself, an ally and a supporter, but then also say, how dare you think for yourself? How dare you step outside of this regime-approved narrative and way of thinking? Well, who's oppressing us then? I mean, because you're upset with me because I'm doing what I want to do. Isn't that freedom? Isn't that what we're supposed to be striving for? Apparently not.
No.
They want to keep the chains on our feet.
So illiberal. This is such an undemocratic party.
It literally is.
Yes, and they won't even allow Kennedy.
They didn't vote for their candidate.
No, she was inserted.
I almost said contestant. That would have been more accurate. she is kind of like a pageant.
Down.
Yeah. I mean, but she is almost really just sort of like a figurehead kind of.
Oh yeah.
She's a placeholder.
That's why she's perfect.
Yeah.
Because she'll do whatever the real people The people who are really in charge
She's
will
controllable.
tell her to do. Yeah. And RFK Jr. said something that I think people really need to keep in mind. Never in the history of society have the people who want to censor the people been the good guys.
The good guys, right.
Yeah.
No, he's right.
Yeah, come on. Listen up before it's too late, because I guarantee that if they succeed in doing what they want to do, you are going to be crying in your beer. You will not like it. I'm sorry. 90% of what you hear about Trump is either an exaggeration or flat out lie.
Flat out lie.
I'm sorry he did such a crappy job in the debate, because he had all the answers. If I could have worked him like a puppet, I could have won that debate. I mean, he does have the answers, but he doesn't speak well. He says dumb things, but he's not a bigot. He's not a hateful person. He is not a dictator. He's the one that wants control of this country to be back in your hands.
Well, and I've said this before too. I mean, the irony is I cried when Donald Trump got elected. I voted for Hillary, and I was crying because I believed the media, CNN,
Yes.
MSNBC, New York Times. I believed when they said Donald Trump was going to roll our rights back, that he was going to round up gay people and lock them up. And the irony is everything that I was afraid that Donald Trump was going to do to me happened to me under Joe Biden. It was the Biden administration that rounded me up,
Wow.
put me in jail, dragged me through hell, destroyed my name, destroyed my reputation. Trump didn't do that.
Yeah.
Joe Biden did that, and his Department of Justice. And now the Kamala Harris Department of Justice and FBI.
And, voting for somebody isn't dating them.
Right, right.
I just want to put out the fire. We can talk about restructuring and rebuilding, but right now the country's on fire. Let's put it out. Don't vote for the lady that has a bucket of gasoline.
That's right. That's right. And if you don't like where your life is today, under 3 years of Biden running the country, it's not going to get better. If you go back and you vote for the same, if you're going to elect the same people, you're going to get the same thing that you've gotten. And if we can't count COVID. That was ridiculous. When the Democrats try to say, "Oh, he gave us the worst economy," you had the greatest economy in history until COVID was. And by the way, we never should have shut down the government.
No,
we never should have locked
and he
people
never
down.
would have agreed to it if
No.
it wasn't for the fact that they were bombarding him
Yes.
on everything that he tried to do, and he knew every death then will be blamed on me.
That's right. And by the way, more people died under Biden and Harris of COVID than under Trump. We never talk about that. They talk, oh, what a terrible job. He was a maniac and so many people died. More people died of COVID under Biden and Harris than under Trump. And a lot of people don't realize that, but that's a fact.
Wow. Well, we had Biden get up there and say to the camera, which I don't know how much he knows, because I think he was senile from day one. But he said, you take this shot, you can't get COVID. It stops there.
That's right. So did Mad Cow.
Yes.
Your good friend, Mad Cow.
She certainly did. And she had proof of Russian collusion. Well, if you're talking about Hillary, yeah.
Yeah.
There's plenty of proof.
She also had proof of Biden delusion.
Oh,
day
yes.
one.
He's sharp as a tack.
Yeah. No, but I mean, really, the idea that we could possibly elect this person who participated in this facade for the last 3 years, that really was dangerous. A very dangerous thing to do, and to knowingly do that. But I got to say, this is just my opinion. I'm not sure which is better. I don't know which one of them is mentally less sound to control the country.
Yeah, my sister brought up that. Well, she was saying she thought that Hillary would be better than Kamala.
I agree with that.
Wow.
I agree with that. I don't think Kamala's evil like Hillary's evil.
Okay. I don't either.
I think Hillary's evil.
Yeah.
But I do think that Hillary's very intelligent and capable. I think Kamala truly doesn't know what she's doing. I think she's in over her head, and she knows it.
Sometimes I feel bad for her.
I do too. Except for she's doing it.
Is like, I'm really not comfortable.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I don't know the answers, and I don't know what I'm doing. But it's got to be, I guess, comforting to know that you can screw up without limitlessly the media is going to back you up. Your party's going to back you up. The press is going to back you up. You know,
Yes, we have propaganda, not news.
Yeah, we do have propaganda.
But I'll get crap for this, I'm sure.
Well,
wait, I got to tell you.
Yeah, please.
Although I don't want this to be ominous, but I believe in genetic memory.
I do too.
Okay.
Well, I do too.
I'm the 7th generation granddaughter of a woman who was hanged in Salem.
Wow.
Yeah, Cotton Mather accused her of being the queen of hell.
So you feel like there's almost like intrinsically in you this perhaps desire to fight against injustice.
Yeah, I hope I don't end
mob
up
mentality.
hanging. But I mean, she went to the gallows still saying, how can you believe this? Why are you believing this? She was accused of turning into a black cat at night. So, I mean, everybody that confessed was spared. She never confessed because she wasn't going to go against the truth.
Perhaps it is genetic then, that there is this thing in you.
I won't go along, but I don't want to get hanged.
Yeah, right. No. Well, none of us want to be hanged, but I think that's kind of the direction things are going if we continue this. If we don't speak out now, you know, I put out a video a few weeks ago. I think you've probably seen. It's kind of the sequel, the update to my original WalkAway video.
I love it so much. I even mirrored it to send to my friend in Canada so she could see it, because for some reason she couldn't get Rumble or something. Don't worry, you know, I know I don't own rights to it, but
I just want people to see it.
Have the equipment. Yeah, she loved it. I sent it to my son. Yeah, it's great.
Look, I don't know how some of these political influencers are making money. I don't I monetize my stuff and I make like $3, you know what I mean? Because they try to make it impossible for you to actually. So I don't care. I just want people to see the video and see the message. I'm not like, I'm not getting rich off my videos. Trust me.
Look, I'm doing a podcast right now. It's called The Crusher Podcast. Look it up. We do get.
Where do we find it?
Wherever you find
podcasts.
It's on Rumble. It's more often on Rumble than it is on YouTube because we put RFK Jr. in the title of one of the podcasts and it got bumped.
Of course.
From YouTube.
Crusher.
The Crusher Podcast. There are other Crushers out there, but say The Crusher Podcast.
Okay.
You can tell my face is there. And just because I have to talk. I have to. I can't be quiet. I can't sit back. I can't sit back and let people be lied to. You know, there are people that have come to me and said, this is why I don't like Trump, and they were all good reasons. I'm like, okay. You know, I don't like those things either. But to be lied to, I can't stand that.
Yeah. So, final thought here. I maintain that I think you did something brave. And I would say even something, I would describe it as heroic, because I think it's heroic anytime a person makes a personal sacrifice for the greater good. And that to me is what you did. As we go out, what is your message to anybody in this country right now who sees things the way that you and I see things, who are worried about the way things are going and what could happen, but have not found the courage and the bravery that you've found to speak up, stand up, speak out, because of their fear of any kind of personal risk or retribution that might bring? What could you say to anybody about that?
Well, I'd have to say I believe that things are so dire that don't bring up religion or politics at the dinner table is a rule that has to be thrown out the window, because I think you do need to bring it up. I think that if you see the danger that I'm seeing, you owe it to the people you love to go, but gently, kindly, nicely, have respect for what they think, because almost everybody has good intentions. And say, well, okay, I know that you feel this way about this group or whatever, but you're actually going to do them more harm. Global warming, I'm sorry. It's doing more harm to the animals than, putting everything on electricity is going to do more to harm the environment. I'll let better people talk about that. But it's just tell people, come on, just take your brain, just go, boop, just a little bit. Just consider this other side. Consider what might be happening. Because sometimes when you plant a seed and say this might be happening, people start seeing it.
So bottom line, this is not the time to be quiet.
No, it is not. And Thanksgiving's coming up. I want to see people shouting and fighting about politics. Oh, wait, it'll be too late then. Start fighting now.
Yes. Halloween. Perfect.
Yes.
Nothing could be scarier than what we're going through right now. Maybe it's a perfect Halloween party conversation. Listen, it was so good getting to talk to you. It's been great just getting to know you over the last couple of weeks. I hope this is the beginning of a long friendship.
Forever.
Me too.
Yes.
Me too. And I think I speak on behalf of America that we hope that there is a Brady reboot and it's done the right way. But good for you for standing up. Thank you, Susan.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you,
Love
sweetheart.
you.
Love you too.